Missed out all the cruise ship jargon again.
Oh, we didn't record? Oh. No, that's a horrible cold open. What I'm
That's
doing.
terrible.
Is it worse than yesterday though? Because yesterday you guys
What did
left
you guys
me
do
hanging.
yesterday?
I tried to make a joke and everyone just stayed quiet. And I'm just like struggling and digging myself deeper in a hole, and everyone's just like
I believe, Jose, your reaction is what we hear in the show we're going to talk about today. Like, is fuck you. Fuck you, and welcome back to the We Need a Roads podcast. And if it seems like we've been swearing a lot, even in the cold open, then you can blame Carmi, Cousin Richard, the Facts, and everyone else at The Bear, as we have binged and consumed season 3 of Christopher Story's The Bear, when all 10 episodes recently dropped on Disney+. Today I'm joined by Chef Jose.
Yes, Chef.
Thank you, Chef. Chef Marie.
Yes, chef.
Thank you, Chef. So, in this spoiler special, here is my list of non-negotiables. First, we're going to go through every episode of the series in chronological order, picking out some of our favourite bits from the season. Then we're going to have a look back at our predictions from Season 2 for Season 3 for bragging rights between me and Jose, because David can't be here today, and he wasn't on the last one. Ben can't be here today, and he was on the last one. And then we're going to look at the key character arcs from Season 3 and where we think Season 4 of the show is going to go. So, starting off with Episode 1 of Season 3, Tomorrow. Now, with Episode 1, you expect it to be the aftermath of Carmi getting trapped in the fridge, being a dick to Claire, and of course Marcus missing the calls about his mum. But instead, what we got was a full episode meditation on loss as we flash back through Carmi's life, as we see him learn the news of his brother's death, we see him train with Olivia Colman, we see him go to Copenhagen, and then also with David John Hale's character in New York. I loved how this episode sets up all the influences in Carmi's life, which will be key for the season finale, and how his relationship with Sydney is echoing his own past bosses. I loved how the episode takes place over different time periods, and it filled in loads of little blanks in kind of key character moments that we hadn't seen from previous seasons and stories. So doing a slow meditative episode and something completely unexpected is actually probably the most Bear thing Story could have done, because I think we're all expecting like a chaotic follow-on, which we initially didn't get. And of course, when I heard the music, I was like, that sounds like Nine Inch Nails. And it was. It was Nine Inch Nails sung together, and it just ebbed and flowed throughout the whole episode. That song is not 25 minutes long, but they just kept looping it and looping it. Man,
To be fair, it is 9. I did look it up.
It's 9. Okay,
9.
So then I have to loop it about 2.5 times then. Wow.
It's funny because I didn't even notice the song looping at all. I was just like, wow, this is a really great episode. I was just so enamored. Like, it took me probably 9 minutes to realize it was going to be like that for the entire episode. But then I just sat back and I'm like, this is nice.
Well, that's what I like about the show. It always tries to give you what you want, but also do something different. And I saw so many people take up against this episode online. And I was like, are you kidding? It's genius. It's like, it's a filmmaker, a showmaker, showrunner, at just the height of his powers going, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And people are still going to love it.
Under my notes for episode 1, all I wrote was food porn, or as known in the Ace community, porn.
You know, I was kind of the same with my notes. I wrote 2 words, amazing and beautiful. And it was literally just an ode to cooking and creativity. Like, I was so just pleasantly surprised by how calm it was. And yeah, it honestly just made me feel good because of the cinematography.
Yeah, it was beautifully shot, man. I mean, and I think you summed it up quite well there. Like, you don't expect an episode of The Bear to be calm and like relaxing. And again, but like I said, that is the most Bear thing you would expect, is to do something different, right?
I think the first episode is kind of really a good representation of what it did in the season as a whole, with entire episodes expanding what normally would be just a small segment and making it an entire episode. The one that really comes to mind for me, which it's kind of hard to miss, is the one where Sugar has the baby with Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's literally just 2 close-ups the whole time. And I may not be the most favorite episode, but I respect what they did with it. It built their characters.
Yeah, with episode 2, originally cleverly titled Next, you kind of went back to what was more of a normal episode. I mean, I love to start with Sydney and her dad Emmanuel, and like the bath time rules thing was really funny. And the intro sequence showing Chicago life is amazing because you just know they went out and shot real people for that. That isn't like, you just probably sent someone out with like lightweight camera. Right, just get me some Chicago shots. Get me some good B-roll of like. Obviously, they probably definitely had to sign a release form. But hey, do you mind if we put you in the intro to episode 2 of The Bear? Yeah, sure, great.
I think with the fact that they're known now, that people would love to be in the show.
The slice of life you just get from it. Yeah, I mean, it's like so many shows. I mean, I think I mentioned this before that when I was at uni, one of the courses I did was space and place in the cinematic city, and how a city's location is inherent to the film or TV show it's in. And The Bear is Chicago. Like there is nothing, as it's the wanky thing that lots of highbrow critics will say, oh yes, the city is a character in the film, but it actually is in The Bear. It like really is.
Oh, it is.
I feel just people like run to that excuse too many times. Oh yeah, the character, the city's a character. Yeah, but obviously it's a character.
When it's done well, it really is obvious.
Yeah, and one of Carmi's tattoos is actually the area code of Chicago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The numbers on his knuckles. That's
Oh, that's awesome.
I never knew that. You also learn stuff on the We Need Roads podcast as well.
Yeah.
First thing, I think the big thing from this is when Carmi and Sugar, they go through the non-negotiables, which again, he's like mentioned before in the series 1 when he was about the thing, but it's just, you're looking at it going, what are you kind of vibrant collaboration? I mean, is that just as wanky as it sounds? Yes, it is. And changing the menu every day seems like insanity for a restaurant. Like,
yeah, I remember messaging you about this and going, yep, I'm sure this will turn out just great. Like,
yeah. No issues whatsoever with that.
It's also like, I mean, I have been lucky enough to go to a few fine dining restaurants, and not that it was the exact same, but they did have same menu items, even though I like went in like 1 year apart because I can I don't even afford it. I get invited, and I only get invited once a year by family. But like, so I was like, even in the restaurant world, this is just crazy. Like, this is just going to cause stress and anxiety, and also doesn't give everyone the opportunity to get comfortable with a dish. Horrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, it then leads to Richie and Carmi arguing just like old times. That fuck you montage was superb, man. I mean, some of the lines here, you get fucked, am I having a stroke? It was classic Bear. I mean, they're swearing at each other non-stop. But it's when he brings up Claire that the whole rest of the kitchen's like, oh shit, he's gone too far. And like, the funny thing is, everyone gathers around Carmi and says, and Carmi's like, wait, did everyone hear that? Did everyone know what was going on? And it's like, well, yeah, of course they did.
I have to say though, at this point though, you almost kind of like are not as mad at Richie as he used to be in the other
Carmi's
seasons.
the one in the wrong.
So it's like
100%.
And I think that's the through line of the entire series. In season 1, Richie was the one. He was the person you wanted to punch in the face. But like, he goes through this arc, and now it's Carmi the one who's like being an absolute shithead.
And you see that in that argument because even despite them swearing at each other and you got the old style argument, you can see the new Richie trying to take charge of it, and Carmi can't deal with it. Like when Richie's trying to calm it down a little bit, he's not old Richie and like he's like fully going from 0 to 100. He's trying to debate Carmi, but Carmi's the one who's like lost his shit and is like. And the funny thing is, Carmi is also clearly throwing himself into work rather than deal with his emotions. And of course, that's going to be a big thing throughout the season as well. And I mean, that scene is just comedy genius in classic Bear. Like I said, the exchange of fuck yous between Carmi and Richard. I love that Carmi calls him Richard when he's angry with him. And like as a type of insult, but Richie's fine with it. Like that doesn't faze Richie in that thing. And it actually takes Marcus walking in for everyone to stop their petty shit and get back to work.
Yeah, that was really.
Well, you get that nice scene with Carmi and Marcus, and like Carmi's like, offer to help out and not make the same mistakes he did. That was really good there. That's probably the most emotion you see out of Carmi, and like there when he's like offering to help out Marcus.
Yeah, it's something that I wasn't expecting this season.
Anything else on episode 2?
Just I've got another fun fact because I was like, I think it's Wired that does like the chef reacts to this kind of scenes.
All right.
And apparently, like, they reacted to a scene to The Bear, and apparently it's very common to get stuck in the walk-in fridge. Like, that is, which I thought was very funny, because that, like, the chef said, no, I've had a service with someone stuck in the fridge the entire time. So, like, something that seems so completely insane actually does happen in real restaurants, which I thought was funny.
I love that. Insane. I would say then, just to kind of recap the second episode, it kind of encapsulates what happens later in the season, because I didn't even think about him being the asshole and then Richie being actually more mature throughout. So that's
It's
a really
subtle.
good
It's
observation.
subtle. It's not obviously they're all both swearing at each other
Mhm.
and all that, but you've got new Richie here, and obviously Carmi. They go the history. He's going to wind him up more, but also talking the music episode. We didn't talk much because obviously we only had the one song in the first episode. The episode 2, you've got Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, who I have mixed feelings on now after they cancelled their gig a day before I was due to see them, and I lost a couple of $100 on the hotel. Horrific. Yes.
Oh,
That was fun. But he
Ooh.
covers the beats, Save It for Later, which is definitely what I'm doing with that hotel if they come back again. And of course, we get Radiohead, Nice Dream from the Bends to close the episode again.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, oh, what's that implying? Nice dream? Is it like is it a nice dream that they're actually going to succeed here? Is it kind of being ironic in the way it's used? So
I have to admit, the music I enjoy, but I don't know.
the songs?
Like, it goes over my head. The
I'm
songs.
here for you to explain it,
Yeah.
Jose.
There we go. That's why we're friends.
Well, it wasn't our music choice, just to tell you that much. Bordering on the cruise stories again. No, stay away, stay away.
Oh yeah, we got be good, be good.
So on to
Focus.
episode 3, Doors, and we start with Marcus's mum's funeral. And hey, I love a good RoboCop shout out. I was once on holiday with some friends, and when it was a really terrible holiday where we were stuck in a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Not a horror film, but it was so boring and in the middle of nowhere. And also, only 2 of the people around us could drive at the time, and so we just ended up watching what was ever on TV. And this is old days, so there was only 5 channels. And of course, we ended up getting absolutely drunk off our faces and watching RoboCop. Just coming up on the spot with a RoboCop drinking game.
Oh wow, I love that.
So, unfortunately, if you do a shot or down whatever you've got whenever someone says the word Murphy, you're not going to make it through the whole film.
Oh man,
I love a
rough.
good RoboCop shout out. I love a good RoboCop shout out. What I loved about this episode, this is every episode's been great so far, but this one I think steps it up a level because it's basically a condensed version of their first month of an opening, and it starts well. You see them being professional and doing really well at the job, and then you see the cracks start to form. Sweeps, he's now the one guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
really
generally
cool.
really like that because like as someone who's like struggling to get a foothold, get his career started because they're like, oh, you don't have experience in this, you don't have experience in that. It just I looked at this show because it's so realistic of people's career choices that like even though other than Carmi and Sydney, everyone is adapting to this restaurant environment, which I think is so realistic. Like you don't have to study something to end up in the job that you are. So I just loved him like being the wine guy and getting the scratch and sniff book.
I love as well how the music in this episode, again, changing the style up, it's all classical music in this episode. Because the Bear is supposed to be a fine dining establishment, and I don't know my classical music exactly, but there is so much of it in this episode, which is weird. And it's supposed to, and again, the music is showing that this is what it is. This is what the kind of music you would associate with a successful restaurant of that type, of that kind of class. And so the music is kind of informing that on you by way of that as well. Of course, it's got one of the best jokes of the whole season in it when Cicero's arguing with Carmi about the butter, and he says the Orwellian butter joke. And of course, another great line, how the fuck are we out of teaspoons?
Hashtag where did all the teaspoons go? That's a long hashtag.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I live on my own.
And you don't know where the teaspoons go.
I have no teaspoons. I generally don't know where my teaspoons are.
I mean, it might be sacrilege being English, but I don't drink tea or coffee. Yeah.
What?
Can't stand either of them.
You're a monster.
I'm the odd one out being in Portugal because in Portugal, everyone drinks coffee and I do not like coffee, but I cannot survive on my tea. I think that is like one of my like sustainable fails that my mom has to send me tea from Ireland because tea here sucks.
Wow, Neil, I heard all of that jingling in the
It's so
eyes.
hot here today. It's so hot. This is like one of these water bottles that you can literally keep your drink cold for the whole day, and I've put ice in it as well.
Nice.
Because that's how cold it is.
Excellent.
This also brings us on to Rich's list of non-negotiables, which was hilarious. I love new Richie still.
Also, I love the through line. Like something like starts, like they mention something and then it's a through line throughout all the episodes, like the non-negotiables. It's just such good writing.
Well, it's coming back because they mention it in season 1 in terms of where he wants to get the beef, when he wants to get all the staff up to his level at the beef. And like we said, then season 2 was about everyone starting to do really well. Well, actually, that's what we thought season 2 was going to be. Season 2 ended up just being about the renovation, getting ready for the first night. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, season 3 now is you're seeing everyone doing really well. You're seeing all the staff like hitting out of the park and that. And Carmi's still a miserable sod, though. I love that Tina and Sydney are still getting on really well. You know, that's a lovely relationship. That does really nice.
Yes.
And Jose, I've got a fun fact for you. Neil Fat
All right.
is
Let's hear it.
actually Matthew James Matheson, Matty Matheson. He is a real-life famous chef and restaurant owner in Toronto. And also, of course he was a roadie for a little while for a friend's metal band, because of course he was. And also, he's a producer and culinary consultant on the show.
Nice.
I did not know that, although it doesn't surprise me because I did see little bits and pieces of where they were interviewing him, and it seemed like, oh, how's it like to be on a TV show as an actor? And I'm like, that's a weird question. But
He's
now it
done
makes
quite
sense.
a few reality shows where he's been like the head guest chef and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm not a reality
wow.
TV guy at all, but there is one show that has just come back on Netflix that me and my dad it's so cheesy and bad, yet we love it. And it is American Barbecue Showdown. And they were like, there's the new series just dropped, and in the first episode they got like the season preview and facts in it. I was like, that's fact.
No way.
That's fact at the TV.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So,
is that how you found out?
No, it was research, Jose. Research.
Gotcha. Research.
Back to the episode. Sugar figuring out the finances was great. I mean, I feel like that's not going to go well as the season goes on, as we know. I love the amazing edits, like from the editing point of view. Every time someone says doors, there was an edit, a cut on the doors, which was just...
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't catch that. I need to watch the show again.
I'm going to have to watch it so many more times before we hopefully get a guest from the show on, potentially.
So I have just a short notes on episode 3 again. Interesting dynamic of showing the routine, but also the stress that builds up over that month. I thought that was really cool. I just remember the overall feeling of everything. It just kind of like builds up the short edits and the close-ups, and I'm like, this is still the show because it's different, but it's still inciting that stress they had when they were arguing.
Like I say, Richie and Carmi get into a shoving match during it, and of course, this is the perfect example of new Richie when he says, "You're not fully integrated. Don't talk to me until you're integrated. Jag off." That's like the perfect combo there of old and new and old Richie like mixed together there. And you can see by the end of this episode that everyone is becoming miserable because of Carmi and him being so inflexible over the changing the menu. Like Cicero's like, "Where's the money? We're booked solid every night, but we're not making any money." And like Carmi's spending all this money on just trying stuff out and experimenting. And you can really see the pressure, like you say, Jose, just building up. And of course, like we're only at the end of episode 3 and Carmi's on the verge of a breakdown already.
It's just really good writing. This is a show. They know their characters. They know how to push them. And it just does it. They do it well.
I think when you've got just the same writer, I'm fairly certain Christopher Storer writes every episode, and it does work sometimes. Not everyone can do it, but some writers shouldn't do it, like write every single episode. But I mean, I think that's probably one thing with the Bear episodes being a bit shorter. It's probably not as much of attack. I mean, it's obviously attacks coming up with all this and keeping it relevant and interesting every time.
Although I wonder if having the cooking elements of it, as being a large part of it, can allow for a shorter script.
I think just the way the show is, the pace of it, you couldn't sustain it for an hour episode. You get the occasional 40-minute one here and there, but it's the exception rather than the rule. And I mean, a good example is I'm just started watching the Decameron on Netflix, which is a 13th century Italian Black Plague comedy.
As you do.
Okay.
So imagine Downton Abbey, but with lots more swearing, lots more sex, and the occasional corpses and murder. And
you had me at sex. Let's cut that.
Hashtag Thirsty Jose, as he's known in the group chat. The problem is it's an hour each episode, and it's too much. It should be half an hour tops. And I'm watching it going, this is good, but I can't see it sustaining. And I'm like 6 episodes in now, and I'm like, I'm starting to get bored. Like, you got these brilliant comic actors in it, and yet it's just the pace. It can't keep up that pace. And The Bear is a perfect example of the episode's as long as it needs to be to tell the story. Moving on to episode 4 of Violet, I was a bit confused at the start of this because I think it starts with Claire and Carmi, and I was like, is this a flashback, or have we jumped forward to them getting together? And I'm not 100%, but I think it was a flashback because you get the bit where Claire's in the hospital. Oh no, Claire's telling him the story of the girl on the glass table, and I was like, that's really good. It's annoying. I was like, because that's her first kind of proper scene in the show this season. It's funny because so many people hated Claire because she's like, the standard manic pixie dream girl when she comes into it. She's like Miss Perfect, isn't she?
I didn't realize it until someone said it out loud. I'm like, oh wow, she's a really nice, good personality.
Got the job, doesn't actually need Carmi.
Exactly. I was like, you're kind of right, but she's a little more put together, I think, than a manic pixie dream girl would be normally.
I think even that term's a bit redundant now, isn't it? It's just I think people just didn't like the fact that she had her shit together. Is basically what.
I think people just didn't like the fact that she was with Carmi. I mean,
Yeah, there's that as well.
There's like people get a bit weird about that kind of thing, and also like there is like quite a lot of people want Carmi and Sydney to get together, which I think is the worst idea possible.
No,
like
absolutely not.
No.
Oh no! Why?
I do not know.
I mean,
fandoms are crazy.
You know what it is?
Fandoms are crazy. Yeah.
It's the book people that are like, oh, they were enemies at first, and then they become lovers, and I'm like, we don't need that here. We don't need that here. He's also like more of like a mentor figure than there's
nothing even hinted at.
Than a love interest.
There's not even exactly, but people. I think after season 2 came out, like so many people were demanding it. And I was like, no, please stop, just stop.
I think Claire and Marcus should get together. They've really kind of played on that.
Sydney
and Marcus.
Wait, Sydney. I think. Sorry, thank you for the clarification. Oh. I think.
No. I regret doing it once now.
Sorry.
Okay, that was clearly funny then.
I think Sydney and Marcus should get together. That's where it should be. They have a little bit of history, a little bit of reluctancy from Sydney, but ultimately I think they get along really well. But that's only if we really wanted to have them together. They're great as friends. I don't think
it's that type of show, mate. I think
no.
Correct.
It's not a relationship. Correct. I mean, it's a relationship show in like the terms of the working relationships, but personal relationships. I think this kind of show it all happen off screen. You'd go to an episode and go, "Oh, these people are together. Oh, when did that happen? Oh, off screen." Because that's not important.
Oh yeah, it's
it
like
doesn't need romance.
Everyone's just reacting to the news. Hey, yeah, they're together. Oh, what? They're together? Oh, okay, I guess they're together. And then it's like, oh, how did it happen? You know? And then you probably see it in stories told after the fact. That'd be fun.
I like in episode 4 as well. It's like the first thing about Sydney's partnership agreement and her relationship with her dad was nice. Like again, it's so nice to see relationships on screen. And I suppose the show does this where the restaurant is going to be like this fractious place, but then you see a lot of the characters' personal relationships with people who aren't involved in it. They're great, like Sydney and her dad, Sugar and her husband are like definition of a perfect couple by this show standards, aren't they? Even Richie and his daughter later on, like that's a great scene with Richie, and like him trying to make peace with having to see that his ex is moving on and getting remarried, and he takes his ring off, which is like old Richie wouldn't have done that. New Richie's like, okay, he's not happy about it, but he's getting over it. Of course, mentioning about Fak earlier, Fak has to be the one who puts the wall of critics up, so I'm sure you got a laugh out of doing that. You got Ibrahim's beef window, which I loved.
I really like that, and I like where that went
because he was kind of in it. He's always been like a minor character in it, and then season 2, when him and Tina get sent to culinary school, and he just kind of drops out, and she like rises to the occasion and loves it, and you're like, well, what's going to happen with him? And then the beef window. I mean, you could see the beef window making more money than a restaurant potentially at one point in the way the show's going. And of course, we have to talk the big cameo for a man who's in a big film that's dropping this week in the UK. Josh Hartnett, Frank the stepdad.
Yeah.
Do not let Frank take your daughter to a pop concert, Richie. Do not.
For those of you who don't know the reference, he's talking about the movie Trap. And can you give us the date, Neil, just for reference?
No. Keep the mystery alive.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to see the film, it's random. You'll find out when it's on and go and see it. Come on.
Josh Hartnett. Let's support Josh Hartnett. Come on.
I was trying to think of where the Heart Renaissance, the Rena Hartnett. No, that doesn't work. He's basically back.
There is a word for it, isn't there?
Well, it depends on the actor's name he's trying to say. The McConaissance was one, wasn't it?
The Fraser-sance or something. Brendan Fraser?
I don't think you can just put "sance" on the end of anything, mate. It doesn't work.
The Brennaissance.
Okay, it's a bit better.
I don't know. There was one for him, too. I don't know.
Anyway, Josh Hartnett's in it. And I love that, again, you kind of got this other, like, seemingly nice alpha male guy. And again, old Richie would have, like, absolutely kicked off at him. And he's like, he's new Richie. He's dealing with it like he's dealing with his emotions and he's processing it, which is good. Of course, we then get Sydney running into Adam Shapiro from Ever, Olivia Colman's restaurant from previous season. And you just know right away she's going to get offered a job there. And I think she knows that, which is why on some level she hasn't even looked at the partnership agreement yet. And this is also the first kind of bit in the season where we hear that the food critics have already secretly been into the Bear for review. And that when that comes out, that's going to make or break them.
So all I have for my notes is they looked more into each character, slowed it down, showed more about what everyone is thinking, still hasn't signed an agreement, took a picture of a flower, and Richie is alone. So Richie being alone, I think,
That should
hit
be a
all of our
t-shirt,
heartstrings
Jose.
a little.
It does now. I mean, like Richie being alone in season 1, I would have been like, yeah, he fucking deserves it. But now, yeah, you do
He's
feel
trying.
him.
He's trying so hard.
He's generally, it's honestly one of the like best character arcs since Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like it's.
Ooh.
We're talking animated, right? Or
Yes. Yeah. Oh God, no. We do not touch that live action crap.
Ben really liked it.
Oh my God.
I think Ben was a fan of the original, and
Oh, my
he
goodness.
liked the animated one, the live action. Anyway, moving on. We also got Sugar. I think we're getting a lot more Abby Elliott this season as well, which is great, and we'll talk about her a bit more later. But
Yeah.
when she has that scene with Richie as well, and I was like, these two are so good in the scene together. And we got to talk the music. This is the first episode where they get Taylor Swift again. Clearly, she's got to be a fan of the show. You get the Cockatoo Twins. You get Brian Eno and John Cale, and my personal favourite, and what a song to end the episode on, a band I only saw a couple of months ago, Weezer, and they have Get You from Pinkerton. And again, they didn't even play that song when I saw them. That's how much of an album track it is. It's the first track on their second album.
Oh, wow.
Which, when it came out, everyone was like, oh, it's not like the Blue Album. And then like 10 years later, was like, oh, actually, no, it's genius. It's just as good. And it is just as good. And it's that minor key song. A lot of Weezer's stuff is minor key. So it kind of works. It's not bright and happy. It's kind of like, I mean, they used the Weezer Christmas song in the Christmas episode, and it's the most downbeat. I mean, Weezer did a Christmas EP, which is amazing. If you want to hear their version of what's it, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, awesome. And We Wish You a Merry Christmas. It's not merry the way they sing it.
Well, first of all, I think I need to do some Weezer research because I never really listened to them.
Start with the Blue Album.
I know.
Just go through all the color albums to start off with.
So to kind of rewind a little bit, Abby Elliott, I think, has really turned it around, because I remember when I saw the first season and I'm like, wow, this is a comedic actor in a serious role, even though she was little bits and pieces here and there. But I was like, this is really not in her mainstream. But I even saw her talking about that a little bit. Like when she auditioned, she was like, am I supposed to be here? Because I'm in comedy. And like there are, like, she was told it was going to be a comedy. And she's like, I see some of it, but it's not quite what I expected.
Well, that's the weird thing with The Bear. Like, at the Emmys, it's nominated for Best Comedy.
With this year's Emmys, like, it's always nominated as a comedy, but what I found particularly funny is that The Bear is nominated as a comedy, but Fallout is nominated as a drama.
Yes!
What?
It's crazy. I mean, I think the
Oh
problem
my
they've got this
God.
year is a lot of the older, bigger shows that won everything all the time have finished. It was the most random Emmys nominations ever. I mean, The Bear was nominated for everything. It was like, I lost track of them. I think it's like up in the high 20s it got nominated for in the end. But yeah, like you say,
Wow.
the Ghoul, what's his name? Who plays the Ghoul is up for Best Actor in a drama.
Oh yeah.
He's hilarious.
Goggins?
Walt Goggins, yeah.
Walton Goggins.
I think it comes down to the companies behind the shows deciding where their best chance of winning awards is. And The Bear, when it came out, they had to go up against Succession. They knew there was going to be Succession. And so I think they were just like, do you know what? We're going to go for comedy. But yeah, it's a drama. It's a drama that's funny.
They're probably thinking, oh, we laugh sometimes.
Exactly, but it's not like can't stop laughing. Like, it's more anxiety. Like,
like scared laughing out of fear.
yeah, exactly. Laughing because you're sad, uncomfortable. Like,
well, bringing on to episode 5, Children, probably the biggest cameo that no one saw coming. I mean, this is Deadpool levels of cameos. Like John Cena.
Oh my goodness.
Fact.
brilliant.
That was hilarious.
Absolutely brilliant.
You couldn't see him?
For the wrestling fans out there, you know what we were talking about.
I was about to say, yeah, this show brings in the computer, who's Cicero's money guy, and you can sense that he is going to be Kami's downfall eventually. I can just... Oh, and they bring in the facts. I mean, there's a lot more facts this season, but some people weren't a fan. You cannot have enough facts in the show for me. And this game they play, the Haunted game.
Oh, that one, I think it went a little long for me.
That's what made it funny.
I like the facts.
You're like, how long are we spending with them going on about this? This is not funny. It's like that Monty Python South Park thing of just beating a joke to death and then keep it going till it becomes funny again because you can't believe they've gone this long on it. And I just love how everyone else connected with the restaurant and in the restaurant seems to immediately know about the haunting game and what it is. And they know what it's going on about. I was like, because we don't know it as the audience watching. We're going, what the fuck is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
And you're just like, but everyone else is like, oh yes, he's haunted. He's haunting him. Oh no. Like, you're like, what? Also, this is the episode where we
Yeah.
find out that Olivia Colman's Chef Terry is closing her restaurant ever. And of course, Sugar, again, she gets one of the best lines in the episode. If you fuck with Marcus, I will kill you.
Oh, I was so rattling with her. I was like, "Do not cut Marcus. I will riot."
But when the computer suggests getting rid of
Mhm.
Marcus, I was like, is a dessert chef really that important? Is that sacrilege? Apparently it is.
I mean,
Apparently
for
it
a
is.
fine
I mean,
dining
like, I'm a
restaurant, yeah.
massive sweet tooth, so like dessert is the most important thing in the world. Like, nothing ruins a dining experience when you have an amazing food and then the dessert is just like imported crap. Nope, nah.
Oh yeah, just like, oh, this is stale
Exactly,
brownie, or
like
this is
clearly heated up in the
bland
microwave,
ice cream.
or yeah, just
True.
like
Mhm,
And he's still not
mhm.
made that perfect donut.
uh,
That's going to be a callback.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to do it at some point, aren't they?
I don't know, maybe he's traumatized.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do it like the banana. It's at the end of the season, at the end of the show. Like, he makes the perfect donut, and you know he's happy.
Oliver Platt as Cicero. I mean, he's been in loads of shows down here. I remember him, I think he was in Lake Placid all those years ago, man.
Oliver,
But he's career best here as Uncle Jimmy. He's so good because he's the money guy and he's no nonsense.
oh yeah,
You can see that he takes the time. He's really good with a lot of the people. It's just Carmy he gives a lot of shit to because Carmy's the one who's pissing all his money up the wall on random menu stuff.
okay. I had a brain fart, and I didn't realize Oliver Platt's been in
A lot of stuff.
this
He's
for
just
season one.
everywhere. He's like always pops up in like some random TV show and he's there. Like,
He is such a good side character. Like, the way he speaks, something about his mouth is like something really cool about his voice. I know that sounds weird, but it's just really captivating. I don't know.
with episode 5, it's like again such a good example of them subverting expectations because we've got the facts and like the entire time they're on screen I'm like they're gonna fuck something up, like because they're like buffing something and I was just like they're gonna crash into the table, they're gonna break a window, and you've got the critic coming and the entire time I'm like on the edge of my seat and I'm just like there are too many facts, something's gonna happen, but then it doesn't.
I know, right? I was waiting for it. Also, was this episode you see the photographer at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, the photographer's there to take the pictures, and then that's
Yeah.
why they're trying to get everything nice.
Okay.
And the facts are facking all over the place.
Exactly, and that's why I was like, they're going to screw this up. And then the real twist of the episode, where they were like, "Oh, can we have the duck dish?" And like, no one knows what they're talking about because they changed the menu like 20 times already.
Oh man. Also, as a photographer, I was kind of offended by how badly they portrayed the photographer in this. It's like, why is he so close to the table? Like, maybe you'll get one photograph of the centerpiece. You're gonna get a photo of the entire room. Everyone should leave the room, and there should be just the photographer and the person with him. It's just so annoying to see.
This has been
photographers
Photography
portrayed
Corner
poorly.
with Jose Lopez.
Yes, I had to say it. I had to say it out loud.
Brief tangent, mate. You have to go and watch. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to see Civil War because that is about 4 photographers.
Oh yes.
Again, slight tangent. In my office where I work, one of the guys there, we got a photographer in it, and he's a former war photographer. This guy has had front page covers
Wow.
of like all the national papers in the UK. He's done stuff in he's got stuff in like galleries up in London now. He had a picture of a missile going over Iraq like once that he took.
Wow.
And so when I watched Civil War, I was just like, oh, that seems a bit crazy. Like the photographers are like running around with the soldiers. The soldiers are pulling back the photographers when they're getting shot at. That's not real. And then I spoke to him. He's like, actually, no, that's all spot on. I was like, holy fuck.
Wow. Yeah. No, I believe some of that because I've seen some stories on photographers like back more in the Vietnam War, and they're literally with soldiers. They're putting themselves at risk just to get documentation of what's really going on out there.
So yeah, great film. One of the film my picks of the year actually at the minute. But moving back to the Bear, it's music in episode 5, and again they're spending all their music budget because we had the Rolling Stones, Mixed Emotions, we had Van Morrison's Purple Heather, and again what I like that they do a redux with certain songs. Sometimes there'll be a certain song that will almost become like a theme of the season, and we get Eddie Vedder's Save It for Later again in this one. Of course, now we move on to episode 6, which is probably my favorite episode of the season.
Yeah.
Napkins, which is Tina's story. And again, we think where we found Tina in season 1 when she was like this really snarky, bitter. It's kind of funny seeing how snarky and bitter she is in season 1, bearing in mind when we see what she goes through in this episode. Having said that, I suppose she views Carmy coming in and changing what she loved, which was working with Richie and Mikey there. So I can kind of see that now.
And I think it was because also Mikey was the one that gave her that chance. And so, like, we don't know how long she was there before Carmi came in.
With this episode again, we're like, did you think it was a flashback or it was happening a flash forward? I was like, has she lost her job? Have we jumped forward? I wasn't sure.
It definitely took me a little while. Yeah, it took me a little while to get adjusted to the time frame, but yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I think it shows for a lot of us what's going on with jobs situation, and that's what makes it so relatable.
This episode spoke to me on so many levels as someone who's currently job hunting. Like, especially like the scene, like especially her like always on LinkedIn. Like, I honestly, I'm getting like LinkedIn is like always gives me now anxiety. But then, like, her turning up to that job interview, and then they're going like, "Oh, I'm here for the job interview. I applied on LinkedIn," and they're going, "Oh no, we hired someone in house." And then she going, "Well, you should take that ad down because it will get someone's hopes up." Yes, the amount of fucking times that has happened to me, it's honestly, it just drives me crazy. Where like I apply for a job and they're like, "Oh no, we've already found someone." I'm like, then why do you have the fucking ad still up? It's oh god, honestly, and it doesn't make you feel great either.
Yes.
It's yeah.
Well, you've wasted your time to do that, man. I mean, yeah.
The culmination of her showing up to where you know she's going to end up, and then Mikey just being the
well. First of all, before we get to Mikey, her husband in the show. Did you recognise who he was, Jose?
I recognize the actor. I didn't know if he had been on before.
The actor is David Zayas, and he was Detective Angel Batista from Dexter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, of course, Tina's real name is Lisa Colon Zayas. Real life husband. Yeah,
it says married?
That's their real life husband and wife in the show.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. It's great that they're both actors.
Well, that's probably how they met. But I liked how, like you say, I like how she walked out of that obvious scam conference thing at the start, you know, and like you say, that their hipster store she goes to, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And like you said, and the one you mentioned, Marie, when she's at her job and she's like, okay, we'll tell them fuck you. I was like, yes.
Yep. I wanted to say that so many times. So I was just going to say, I just got rejected from a job like 2 days ago. And then they were like, okay, could you also please fill out the survey? And I'm just like...
Oh my God.
I believe the exact answer is the same as what Tina, which is tell them fuck you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I really hit home with the one where it's like she's interviewing for a job that she did exactly the same thing, but she didn't have a bachelor's degree. She's like, I did this for 10 years. I have experience. It's like, well, we like to promote from within. I'm like, guys.
And that is so true, right? I wouldn't have got through the door for the cruise ship job if I didn't have my degree.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, I mean, I remember, again, try and keep this brief on the cruise ship stuff, but when I had the interview, there was 4 of us, and they told us there was only one spot. And so immediately it's like everyone's like sizing each other up because there's obviously a lot less videographers than there are photographers in the fleet, you know. So everyone's sizing them up, and we look around. There was this Swedish guy there. He was like wearing a tracksuit for the interview, and he's like the most definition of like a filmmaker, you know. But he's got like a really shit hot portfolio, and we're like, oh, this guy's stuff's awesome, but he didn't have a degree.
Wow!
And they didn't even consider him because of that, apparently. And that's what you need to get through the door. And like. Ironically, I could have trained anyone to do the job in about a month. Easy. You know, that's the thing. We always used to say, Jose, how many photographers wanted to become videographers because they thought we had an easier life and they got to go on all the excursions and the pay was slightly more. And because any argument always was, and not to the detriment of photographers on board, but the view was sometimes that you can train anyone to do cruise ship photography. It's literally set the camera up and push the button to a point. Because
that's debatable.
No, that's why I say to a point. Because you would get lots of crew. One thing that the company did that was good and bad was that if you've completed 3 contracts, you could then apply to work in a completely different department. So say you're like,
wow,
that's how Oscar. Did you ever work with Oscar Magnon video? Yeah, he was my assistant on the Emerald. Amazing guy, brilliant videographer. He started as a photographer because they wouldn't, and he had his degree from his uni in Mexico. They wouldn't hire him. Oh, we don't hire videographers from Mexico. So they actually had like a massively racist hiring practice in place. They wouldn't hire video staff because apparently people from certain countries' degrees wouldn't be as good as people from other countries. And what happened was a contract Oscar was on, the videographer either left or got fired. And he said, look, I want to be a videographer. Let me do the job and I'll do both. And he worked both jobs to prove that he could do it.
Wow.
And at the end of the contract, the manager's like, yep, you're a videographer now. But he had the
That's
fucking
awesome.
degree. That's what
I'm
annoyed
glad-
me. Like, he had the degree, but anyway, kind of got a little bit off
Yeah.
point here. No Sleep
You know
Till
what?
Brooklyn.
Did he have napkins?
Did he have napkins?
Did he have
I
napkins?
do not know. What is the song? It was only when you see the shot under the bridge and you see the beef, and it's the Beastie Boys song, and I think it's Sabotage, isn't it? It's Sabotage. It is really overused now in popular culture. Like, it is one of my favourite songs, but it's still a brilliant use of the song, and that reveal is just, yes, it's spot on.
Mhm.
And yeah, like we say, let's get to Tina and Richie's first meeting. You can see how, despite the chaos inside, Richie and Mikey are really good guys to her from the start. You know, like when she starts crying when she gets given the free sandwich and just she's sitting around the corner, and their conversation is like, "Oh, you know, we can't have her crying in front of the things. Well, you go and say something. No, you go and say something."
Yeah, but what I liked about that, because it was still, because this was old Richie, so we could still, like, we saw, like, Richie, like, being, like, a fairly, like, nice guy by giving her first the free coffee and then the free sandwich. But then when she starts crying, he immediately, like, there you see old Richie again, where he's just like, well, I'm not fucking dealing with that. Like, new Richie would have gone up to her, but no, he's like, just, like, tell her to stop crying. She's, like, messing up the customers and immediately thinking selfish. Which I love that parallel in the flashback where you're like, oh yeah, there's Richie who was a massive dick.
And of course, Mikey's line, was the sandwich really that bad?
I've scared many of restaurant workers of me also, like, crying into my food. It gets very emotional.
I mean, I think it's great to see what Mikey... it's great in this scene as well, because you get to see what Mikey thinks of Kami and how proud he is of how he's doing as well.
Yeah, you get to really see the behind the scenes stuff that he probably never heard.
But even in that one scene as well, you also see how unhappy he is.
Mm-hmm.
Despite him being really good to Tina and giving her the job and all that, you can just see, even though he's not outwardly saying it, because we know where Mikey's story goes. And of course, so yeah, like I say, this is my favourite episode of the series, I think. And of course, who's it directed by? Ayoa DeBerry herself. Sydney directed it as well. Her first episode.
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, you know, first time as a director, just knock it out of the park with the best episodes of the season.
I feel like John Bernthal just brings a really good, like, ability to have, like, a strong machismo kind of vibe, but also some calmness in him, you know, to be kind to her.
And of course, soundtrack again. We had the classic from Kool and the Gang, Get Down on It. We had another Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross song, The Start of Things. Kate Bush, The Morning Fog in this one. And the Ghetto Brothers, Got This Happy Feeling. This brings us on to episode 7, Legacy. And kind of this is the one where it's all about Sydney getting another job. She seems to have one foot out the door because Kami is not treating her like a partner. He's not listening to her suggestions for the menu. And everything that she suggests, he's just ignoring. Mm-hmm. We get Kami at rehab. We get even more facts again in this one. We find out that she's going to be offered $80K and benefits as well from Shapiro's new place. And we get the new Beef Window guys, who apparently were actually the old Beef Window guys. I just didn't remember them from the original. Chucky and Chris.
No, they snuck them in on the flashback with Tina, because they were not in the first episode.
Because I forgot that the wine guy, Sweeps, the wine guy. I didn't realize he was the wine guy. It was only when one of your notes, Jose, I read. I was like, oh shit, that's who that guy is. I just thought they got a wine guy in. So, like I say, it's great to see the Beef Window doing really well. You got Chucky and Chris. You got Ibrahim doing well, and you see Ibrahim, even he has, like I said, even though he doesn't have a lot to do, there's enough character development there that it's one brief scene. You can see he's happy with his friends are back and they're doing well. Again, with the wine guy, with Sweeps, we got a bit of backstory to him there. He's like, oh, he's a former athlete who got caught out for drugs. There's your flashback episode for him next season.
Oh yeah, I really liked how they keep it subtle with the side characters that we don't necessarily need a whole lot from them. We just know enough to keep it going.
I just think it's a mark of a really good showrunner who's really good characters development, where you start with your main characters and you expand out, and if everyone likes the side characters, you give them more and more as the seasons go on. So like I say, yeah, hopefully Sweeps gets a story next season. And of course, we get Tina looking at the napkin in the episode, and that was just an amazing callback. And a smile on her face as she walks past.
Yeah, good sign, good sign.
Having said that, as we're coming towards the end and we're coming up to the pregnancy, I had to. Me and my old man were looking at you going, what in the hell is a C-fold?
Right? I didn't know. I had no idea what the C-fold was.
They're paper towels, aren't they?
Basically, yeah. Basically, like a cheap napkin is basically what I think I Googled them were.
Oh, is it the way they're folded?
Yeah, it's like when you go to the bathroom and you get them from the dispensers.
Oh my god! I thought it was like a holder for something. I thought it was. I was like, what the hell?
And also after
That's
that, you
funny.
also get the facts explaining what haunting is as well. I love that little thoroughfare, just continuing on with the facts. Although at this
Yeah,
point, I was
yeah.
like, the reviews, surely the review should be in already. And I was like, okay, it's not. It's definitely going to be the end of the series.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I'll be honest, when she went to go get the baby, I was
You
like,
get the Seafolds.
this the seafold. There we go.
She already had the baby.
Yes, when she went
Kind
to go, yeah, when she had to go get the sea, like, because they had kind of alluded it when her husband, I forget what his name is
Pete.
already, but when like he was like, oh, I'll be back when you still have a month to go, and I'm like, that seems like a really tight deadline. I don't know. That's kind of like,
That's about as surprised as I was when
really-
David actually rocked up for the podcast last night. I was like, well, when's your wife due, mate? And he's like, oh, Sunday. I was like, that's
Dedication. We love
you're in
it.
the zone, man. It could be any time now.
and so I thought I was like, this is gonna lead up to something really close.
Well, and of course, and the music in this episode, again, a Beastie Boys classic, Fight for Your Right to Party. I mean, and you had more music from The Beat. You had Lindsey Buckingham. Okay, little side story. I feel like Lindsey Buckingham is from Fleetwood Mac. And the only reason Lindsey Buckingham made me laugh when I saw that is because there was a skit on Saturday Night Live called What's Up With That, hosted by Keenan. And he has he has 3 guests on in each episode, and 2 of them are always really famous, and they don't get a chance to speak. And then the gimmick is they get really angry with him because he keeps singing and it's not letting them talk about what they're there to promote. And then at the end, it's Bill Hader playing Lindsey Buckingham, and he never gets a chance to say anything. He just sat there and never says a word. So, of course, the skit ran for a good couple of seasons till the final season when actual Lindsey Buckingham turns up. And then I think whenever they do a skit where they're impersonating someone and then that person turns up, they're just like, and now the skit is done. Because they used to have Get in the Cage where Andy Samberg would pretend to be Nicolas Cage, and then Nicolas Cage turned up and it's like, and the skit's done. That's why whenever I'm like talking about anything Nicolas Cage, I'm like, I'm ready to get in the cage. Hashtag get in the cage. This brings us on to episode 8, Ice Chips. And again, this I think pushed close for again one of the best episodes of the season. And it's basically Sugar in traffic having a baby. And again, I love the start of this. It brings back Refused New Noise, which was like just the theme of season 1 and was used again in season 2. And that bit where she's trying to ring everyone, and the last person she has to ring is her mum. Mm-hmm. And when she says, call mum, and then of course, what's the lyric in the song? Right as it kicks in, can I scream? Boom, as the song kicks in. I was like, yes. And again, that's so good. Again, some of the lines she comes out with is, of course I'm breathing, I wouldn't be fucking alive, is such a great line. I mean, I think, honestly, this episode, both of them should be up for awards. Like, I think Abby Elliott, she should be up for Best Actress in a Drama in this, because she does so much with what she does in this. And Jamie Lee Curtis, again, you know, I mean, I'd say like she's having a career renaissance, but she isn't, because she's always been really fucking good in everything she's done.
I almost wanted to interrupt you in the beginning of the podcast just to be like, before I say anything, I love Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, just because she's such a good, like, you can tell she's a good person in general, but like the fact that she transforms into this mom who's
how does she
annoying.
go from Everything Everywhere All at Once to this,
and
then she's in Borderlands, which is coming out in the next couple of weeks. I mean, I'm so hopeful for that, because you look at the cast and there's no way they can fuck this up with that cast. Like, but then you've got Eli Roth directing, which worries me a little bit.
Yeah, they played the trailer before Deadpool, and it was one of those. The trailer is one of those where they reveal the entire movie, which is never a good sign.
But it's also one of those trailers where you just you basically pitch this to them as, oh, do you want to do Guardians of the Galaxy? Here you go.
Oh yes, definitely.
But do you know what? I've lowered my expectations and I'm booked for it, and I'm hoping it's gonna. Because I love playing the games, and like Jack Black as Claptrap's a good idea. And Kate Blanchett is like the lead in it. Like, again, you've just won an Oscar. Did she win? Did she win the Oscar for Tar? Was she nominated? No, I think she was nominated for Tar, wasn't she?
Sure.
Like, you've both. Oh yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis won for Everything Everywhere. Like, you've both just been nominated and won Oscars, and you've kind of done. I suppose so. If you've done these dark, serious films and dark roles, you might just want to like run around on a green screen and blow shit up, I guess.
Yeah, I think they were just having fun with their careers at this point. It's like, we've done the serious stuff. Now let's do something interesting for money.
That sounded dirtier than you intended to, Jose. He is my next note.
He.
Jose, how's your breathing? Of course I'm breathing. I wouldn't be fucking alive. Yeah, so as we said earlier, this is just a two-hander. It's basically just the two of them. And the extreme close-ups on them.
Yeah.
If you notice, they get closer and closer in as the
Yeah.
episode goes on. Just as their relationship
Oh,
begins to
yeah.
mend as the relationship goes on and on.
Also, like, just credit to them because those are so awkward to film. I mean, I've only ever worked on one film, but like close-ups, like the camera's literally there, and you have to pretend like it's not, and it's just like as I said, I've only worked on one film, so I don't know if this is the norm. But like when we did like those kind of close-ups, like it was like almost like a sex scene. It was a cleared set because we couldn't like distract the eye line of the actors, so we all had to leave.
And you know, the next question is, Marie, what was the film you worked on?
Oh, well, it was a mini series for a German, for the German Broadcasting Association, ZDF, which was called Bella Germania, and it was a piece of crap.
Okay, so we won't be looking that one up on the IMDb then.
No, it was, I mean, like, because I was the costume design intern, and as a costume design intern, it was brilliant because it was set in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Cool.
So learning about those
okay.
decades, but then at the same time for the script, like the script was so lazy, like where one of the characters had a birthday in July, and then in the following episode they had one in December. Like it was that kind of lazy writing.
Oh, wow.
But like you say, I suppose
That's
3 different
crazy.
time periods, that's such a wide range for what you
Yeah.
were doing on a film. Wow.
Yeah, for costume design, it was brilliant. The script was awful.
So at one point when I was watching this, I thought this feels like it's going on a little bit too long. But then again, that's having a kid, right? How many shows and movies do you see? There's a big rush, they rush them in, and then there's a baby.
I did really
Very true, very
appreciate
true.
that like a realistic depiction of childbirth, because it takes a fucking age. I mean, I can't speak from personal experience, thank fuck, but
I'm sure David will be able to tell us very soon.
exactly. But that's what I did really like about it. Also, a very good episode of like subverting expectations again, because again, I thought something would go wrong. Like, I genuinely thought Donna did not call Pete, and she just wanted like that moment with her daughter one by one. Because they never show her calling him, so I genuinely thought she was just gonna like not. She was like, oh, like that was gonna be like the twist that she never actually called him. But no, again, like
Didn't need one.
It didn't need one, and then that moment like of her with the facts again. Oh, the facts. Like,
It's so good.
Oh, yeah. The facts are the teddy bears
they
of the
so
show.
are. They're so stupid and so beautifully innocent, and it's just
And of course, I think the only other song in this episode, which at the end, which is I think it's used a little bit, is the song that obviously they're discussing about when Sugar was born, and it's "Baby I Love You" by the Ronettes.
Oh God, tell me, did anyone else tear up
Oh,
over
yeah.
that? I was just like, I was like, yeah. Oh my goodness, that was a weird sound, but you know what I'm talking about.
It also did actually remind me, because like on occasion my dad will get very, very drunk and tell the story of our births as well, and he would like and at one point he once like told the birth of my brother in a very romanticized way. And I remember my uncle being there as well. And my uncle was like, "I'm sure Maurice was as well." And he was like, "Oh no, Maurice was fucking dreadful." So it really did remind me of that moment.
Oh my god!
Oh man.
In context, is because I was born at like 3 a.m. and the babysitter wasn't there, and apparently my doctor got stuck in an elevator. So,
Sweet Jesus.
Oh man.
but
That's
the
a sitcom.
way he
That's a
said
sitcom.
it made it sound like my birth, just the fact my existence was awful. So that was.
The only thing I can say
that's such a great
right there
story.
is apologies, which is also the name of episode 9, which we're moving on to.
Oh, great segue.
Hey.
Love a good segue. And this starts with the facts. Again, the lovable facts.
Oh,
Going
man.
to Claire to tell them that Carmi is sorry, but he just needs to say it. That they know he's sorry.
That is a bold move. That is such a bold move. I was like, I don't know if I should feel awkward or happy or
She
more
was
awkward.
definitely awkward, but also she's like, guys, I love you, but you need to leave.
Yeah.
Yes. She's like, I love you, but leave. I love you, but leave. I love you.
Once
but
again,
leave.
them being just so innocent to the world and not really like they genuinely thought they were helping in that moment. And that's why she can't get mad at them, because she knows they're thinking they're trying to help. But
Well, and also I think that they all know each
Mhm.
other from like back in the day as well, don't
Yeah.
they? Like, so like the Fax and Richie and
Yeah, and that's why I think that she works as a good love interest, because there is that background to their story. She was like, there were kids together, and she did have a crush on him, and then eventually she was able to kind of capture that with him.
But also in this one, Kami invites Sid to the closing night of Ever, and we learn from the computer that even a good review might not be enough to save the bear, or at least what Kami's vision of the bear at the minute is. Sydney finally gets told what her offer is from Kami and Cicero, and it is less benefits and less money as a partner than working as a head chef for Adam Shapiro. So it's pretty weighed in, telling Kami where to go and leaving at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Next note, Jose, I know you're going to smile when you see this. Oh, Britt is in this.
I was glad. I was happy about that.
Gillian Jacobs returns asking Richie to come to her wedding, but man, that's still going to be tough for Richie, man. Like, you honestly tell me they're on that good of terms now that he can just rock up. And again, the whole thing with the loneliness that they've been hinting at with Richie this season. You're just like, why would you put him through that, having to go to your ex-wife's wedding?
Yeah.
He's just took the ring off this season, man. Like, that's a step. This is a step too far, man, I think.
I think it helps that Josh Hartnett's character actually turned out to be nice, because throughout that first talk, that I was like, okay, he looks nice. Is he going to be a dick?
He's going to be a dick in that film on Friday, Jose. I can tell you that much.
Yes, but I honestly think that he was actually really good to be very kind to Richie, and I think it makes it a little bit easier, and it's nice that she wants him there too, regardless of his feelings. Apparently, I think they are on good terms. Obviously, it is kind of just weird to see your ex getting married to
I
someone
was just
else.
wondering who else from Community is going to turn up, because we've got John McHale, we've had Gillian Jacobs.
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
Yes.
you can easily stick Alison Brie in it next season. She's not in any shows in a minute. She's always brilliant. Put Ken Jeong in it. He'd be awesome in it. Oh, Troy and Abed in the kitchen. There you go.
Oh man, that's awesome.
We actually reviewed on a previous episode. Jose told us all about it, and Ben and Josh didn't know about it. Donald Glover's got a new film coming out, and no one had heard of it, called Bando Stone in the New World, and it looks like this weird cross between Cube and Jumanji and A Quiet Place, where Donald Glover plays a singer in an apocalypse, so he's not really much use at anything. And I can't tell what the tone is, whether it's going to be just outright comedy. At one point, I was like, this looks like Troy, the movie, and I'm definitely there for that.
Yes,
I mean, to be fair, that's what the Community
very excited.
film
Very
should be.
excited.
I mean, they're working on that.
Oh, they've been working on it for so long. Just give us it. 6 seasons and a movie. God damn it. We've got the 6 seasons. Give us the movie. This episode ends with Kami, and this confused me a little bit, because you start seeing flashes of review, and I was like, oh no, wait, it's a montage of what he's thinking.
Mhm.
It's so you see bad
Yes.
reviews, you see good
Mhm.
reviews, and then
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, what's it going to be?
Although, wasn't there a moment where Sydney, she sees something on her phone that looks like good reviews? Or
No,
was it
because
the computer?
Sydney goes looks through reviews of Carmi that he's had in the past.
Oh right,
And
Gotcha.
Oh,
them,
okay.
everyone calling him a visionary, like the future. And I think that scene was really good because it shows how conflicted she is between the two jobs. Because even though the situation at the Bear is 100% toxic, Carmi has the potential to make it one of the best restaurants in the world. And then she needs to decide, is that worth sticking through it with him, or
And having a
her
mental breakdown.
having a mental breakdown, or her starting it on her own, which I think was a good follow through
Mm.
into the final episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And of course, this episode, the music, they're big fans of Trent Reznor. We get more Nine Inch Nails with 13 Ghosts doing this one. You get Strange Currencies from REM coming back in again, I love that song. It's weird because that wasn't, again, it's an album track. It was not a big REM hit back in the day when whatever album it was on came out. And then because since it's been in the bet, it's just everywhere again, that song now. And then the last, we got a bit of Stevie Nicks with her song Secret Love. And again, another 90s classic. Everyone had this album. Counting Crows, August and Everything After, and A Murder of One, which is the last track on that album. And again, take that into context. The song's called A Murder of One. And of course, that brings us on to episode 10, Funeral. And it's funny because when I was booted up the show and I was looking at it, I was like, shit, who's going to die in this one? And I completely just forgot it's about the closing of the restaurant. But I was like, oh, are they going to kill someone? Is someone going to die? And no, it was obviously about...
I thought the same thing.
When you just see Funeral as an episode title, you're like, shit, who's going to die? But no, it was about a night out for the team, well, a few of the team, at the closing of Chef Terry, Olivia Colman, the Queen, restaurants for no, and she quits for no other reason than that after so many years of it, she just wants less stress in her life, and she explains this to Kami.
That scene was just so good. What like because like obviously the dialogue in this scene in this show is just on another level. But what I liked about that it doesn't seem like dialogue, which I know it sounds a bit stupid.
Yeah, it sounds like a conversation.
Mhm.
Exactly. It sounds like you just walked into two people having a conversation. Like it's so good. And I know like that is so hard to write as a writer, to like write organic conversation. But like I love that scene of them like looking up at the skyscraper and like talking about like time passing by. It was just I think it was my favorite of the series.
I mean, she's super. Oh, this episode was your favorite then, yeah?
Well, no, the scene was my
Oh, that
favorite of the
scene-
season.
that scene, okay. I mean, when you've got Oscar winner Olivia Colman, she's just brilliant in everything. It's so funny when we watch Hot Fuzz now in the UK, where she wasn't as well known, and she's just like the saucy one, comes out of all the double entendres, everything she comes out with.
Yes.
I'm glad she came back because, like, what was it? 5 minutes that she was in season 2, and
It's so
it was
beautiful.
such a good scene. But it's like, holy shit, they got Olivia Colman for like 5 minutes.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. This episode has all the cameos in it, and it's funny
Yeah.
because last season's Christmas episode was the one that had all the guest stars in it. You know, you
Yeah.
had Bob Odenkirk, you had Sarah Paulson, and this episode has all the real world culinary stars and
Mhm.
famous chefs. So everyone at that table who isn't an actor you recognise is a world famous chef.
Yeah, in the beginning, I thought it was really nice because the teaching of the roasting of the chicken was like you could tell that guy's actually talking about what to do. Not
But that
just,
was funny, right? Because you look at Kami's background and how many nightmares he's had. It's almost like his last experience working with David in New
Oh,
York
yeah.
has turned him into that. Because
Yeah.
you look at when he was working with Luca, when he was working with Chef Terry, it
Mhm.
wasn't that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And like you said the guy's
Yeah.
teaching him the chicken is so nice. So we were both watching. Oh, what's this going to be like? He's going to be and he was really patient and he was like so calm and relaxed. And it was the exact
and telling a good story
it's
about
the exact
everything.
opposite.
But that scene was also interesting because like he teaches him how to do the chicken, and then he walks away, and Carmi does it his own way. I don't know if you
Oh, I
noticed
didn't
that.
notice
No,
that.
I didn't.
It's it's so subtle, but it's like kind of reading that he already knew how to do it, and he kind of already knows how to do it better. But it's just one little move, but like
Wow.
he like skips a step. I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into it, but it's the bear, so I'm guessing they did it intentionally.
No, 100%.
Love it.
Wow.
Uh,
I mean, I thought
That's
thought
great.
that scene with all the restaurateurs talking went a little bit long, but again, it's exactly
Mhm.
like you just said, Marie. It feels like you've dropped in on a conversation, and I suppose you have because most of them aren't actors. And
Mhm.
so, the bit that made me absolutely crack up there is Will Poulter's Luca, and he's just telling this,
Oh.
and he just absolutely like his story goes nowhere, and the person just leaves him and walks off, and you just see him like look at himself and go, "Oh." I forget what he says, but he just looks really disappointed in himself.
He's constantly asking him questions about how to do something.
And I'm just like, oh, I just need to go over there. And
It's I love Will
Yeah.
Poulter, and obviously like that glow up has
I love
been
that he's not afraid to be awkward.
mean, but that was so good.
And here's the thing: everyone was saying about shipping Sydney and Marcus, but everyone after this episode was like, "No, wait a minute, Sydney and Luca is what we want to see."
I think that would be a good.
Mm.
As we just said, romance is completely unnecessary. But
In
if
this
they're
show.
gonna pair someone up, no, in life.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
if they're going to pair someone up, I did really like their chemistry.
Yeah, there was just that spark or something, even in like a brief scene, wasn't it? When they're
Yeah.
just standing there having a little chat in the kitchen, you're like, that is so realistic again in how like that first meeting with someone would go. Richie comes back and asks to work with a service team who trained him, as they jokingly mentioned, they retired his shirt, despite him only working it about 3 days.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was a little much, but it just shows Richie's
Exactly.
personality.
Richie, ask out Chef Jess and take her to your ex-wife's wedding, right?
yes,
Yes, I want that so bad. I like from that first phone call. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's chemistry here. They better do something with that because I'm so like upset that they didn't do it. This
I think
season.
Richie wasn't in the right position for it now. I think now he's like moving on. So I think hopefully that might be
Yeah.
something we see next season. And of course, what's been building all season, well, since season 1, Kami's showdown with Joel McHale's Chef David, who is just
Yes,
a brutal
yes.
dick. But he's right in what he says, but he's just so wrong in his methods. He's like, I made you a better chef and successful,
Mhm.
so you're welcome. And it's so discombobulates Kami that he can't really deal with it. And all he can he's just kind of standing there stunned. And all he does, he just gives him a few minutes, fuck you. And that's basically that it? You all you got? Great, okay. Have a nice life. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I was so like impressed by that because it could have just been like, oh, I'm a dick. I'm a dick because I'm a dick. No, he did it because he's making you better, and he can't argue.
Now, he's still a dick. I mean, I did not study. I never went to culinary school, but I did study fashion design, which has the same. Like, I had some lectures where it was the keep it mean, keep them keen mentality. I think it's just such an awful way to teach, but it's also like such. That was because like to the chef, like Carmy was just like another number, but like for him, Carmy, this person like literally gave him panic attacks and like made it obsess, like kept him up at night. And I've had that person in my life. And if that person was like, oh, it made you better, I was like, fuck you, it didn't. Like it, like I still remember like having this thought about this person, like how can you go to bed at night thinking like a whole classroom of people hate you? Like it was like one of those.
Wow.
But I'm guessing they never thought about me again. But that was another like reflection moment where I was just like, oh yeah, I've had those teachers in my life.
That's a brilliant segue, and it is going to go on to a brief cruise story about a bad manager I once worked with. And the irony is, our video that we used to sell was called The Reflections DVD.
Oh.
So I'd worked with the best manager in the fleet for like 3 contracts in a row. This guy, his name was Adam. He was superb. Like he made everyone on the team better. You had people on the team who, if they were working with another manager, would have been fired for being drunk fuck-ups and just getting done. And he would work with these people. And if he saw enough in you and he liked you and you worked your ass off for him, and he was so good at keeping the same team together. He had his favourite assistant managers, and he had like a roster of them. He would work with all the same assistants. The way most ships worked, and it's very similar to the restaurants, and that is that you start a new itinerary, new menu, you start a new season somewhere, and everyone starts from scratch again. And he was like, no, because you're losing money. If you know what you're doing from the second you're getting through the door, the more people I have who know what they're doing from the second they're getting through the door. And the first time I worked with him, I replaced this Canadian-Egyptian videographer called Kareem, who is amazing. And he had such a clever way of doing stuff. And I was like, well, I can't. He's doing all these like promos in camera with him in him. And I was like, I can't do that. But if you want me to go on camera, I can at least deliver the information about what we do to camera. And I'll promote, I will try at least. And he had the idea that we could promote every product that the photo department offered and put it on the TV channel that we have. Every other ship, all they were doing, here's what we filmed, stick it on a loop on one of the channels on board. Adam would get us to do adverts for every service. If there was a photo shoot at 8 o'clock one night, Neil, can you just do like a quick 5-minute advert? Go down to the backdrop, get the photographers taking pictures, get them to say the camera. Join your photographers tonight at 8 p.m. on at the bottom of the atrium. We're going to be here taking your casual portraits between 8 and 10 o'clock tonight. Come along and see us. And, fancy music over it, shots of the champagne, all that kind of stuff. And no one else was doing it. And, it worked so well.
So who's the asshole
I'm
here?
getting on to... Yeah, sorry, I went a bit too much on working with a good manager. So this was a good manager.
Yes,
this was a brilliant manager. And I worked with him for free. We had some of the best sales. Everyone was a happy team. Everyone loved working with the guy. Not a bad word to say about him. And then I could have worked with him for a 4th contract in a row, but it would have been the same itinerary I just spent the last 2 years doing. I was like, I want to go somewhere else. And I got offered the brand new flagship, the company's first brand new ship in 5 years. And it was doing a 12-day med, 3 days in Venice, and you went from Venice to Barcelona. You stopped in Italy, Turkey, Greece. And I was like, I'm not turning that down. But I was warned about the manager. And this manager's method of managing was to work everyone to the bone and schedule every hour of your day.
Wow.
And we just clashed from day one on board. I remember they had us, literally, it was like slave labor. They had us in the photo lab. You'll love this, Jose. Cleaning, because we were waiting. This was during setup before the ship had even sailed. And instead of relaxing, taking it easy, having fun, doing behind the scenes stuff, which is what I thought I was there for, she had me and the other video guys assigned to help out with all the photo stuff. She treated my role as that I was should be equivalent to an assistant photo manager. Therefore, she thought I should know how to do an assistant photo manager's job. And I was like, no, because an assistant photo manager can't do my job. I said, you can give me a camera, tell me how to point it, and I can probably take portraits for you because I use the SLRs, I know what I'm doing in that, so I can frame a shot. But I couldn't give an assistant, I couldn't give a photographer put him in front of my computer and go, right, now edit me a show. And that's why videographers were paid a little bit more. Also, if you ever gave a photographer a video camera that wasn't an SLR back in the day before we went to SLRs, they wouldn't know how to do it, some of them. And me and this woman, she hated me that much. I remember, and this is now we're getting on to the bear style stuff. One night there was a massive storm erupting over Venice, and we were going to dock about 11 o'clock at night. So of course my assistant Lewis, he was like, "We got to film the storm, man. We got to film the storm." I was like, bearing in mind we've just worked from 9 a.m. to fucking 11 o'clock with maybe 2 hours off. We are dead. It's the last day of the cruise, but there's a thunderstorm over Venice, so we want to go and film it, and it's going to look awesome. And then what happens? Where do you think you guys are going? I need you to close down the photo gallery. I was like, we're going out and filming. Well, it's not on the schedule. I went, no, because you can't schedule a thunderstorm over Venice. That might have set her off a little bit. I was very cocky back then. And she goes, no, you're going to stay here and help us done. And then if I decided, I said, well, you're not actually the boss of the video department. I am. Okay, let's perhaps take this to the back office rather than do this in the thing. No, we're going to do this here and now. And she just railed on me in front of the whole team. And worse for her, in front of the passengers and guests. Two of the guests walked up to me and went, do you want me to report that woman? I was like, no, because it's her last contract and no one's ever going to have to work with her again after this.
I would have still said yes. I was still I'm not petty.
The funny thing is that should have been such a stressful situation for me, but I was so confident in what we were doing and our sales was so good. Mm-hmm. She even tried to transfer me behind my back to another ship. And she went up to my assistant and says, look, I'm not getting on with Neil. I want you to say you've been doing all the work and he's been slacking off. And then my assistant was like, but that's not true. He brought me here. He recommended me for a promotion. Because I recommended this guy for a promotion because he was brilliant and they wouldn't promote him up again. So I said, well, look, mate, I'm sorry you didn't get your promotion to like a senior video, but you've gone up another level. So it's an extra like couple $100 a month. But you can come and work with me again in the Med if you want. And we'll get a brand new ship. We'll get all the new kit. You're guaranteed you'll get promoted after this contract because there's no way they can ignore the sales. And and he's like, cheers, man, I got you back. Yeah, she went to him and was just like, oh yeah, and he's like, well, no, because like that's wrong. And Neil's like really good to work with. He brought me here. Mm-hmm. And then the irony is, at the end of the contract, I was supposed to leave and have a holiday in Venice. She was so unpopular, no one would come to the ship to replace me until she left. So I missed my holiday in Venice that I was all set up for because I had to stay another month and take the ship from Venice over to the States. And literally, the best example of the thing, there was just like this episode of The Bear, slowly pulling it back to The Bear after a 15-minute divergence. We had a big party. There was a big leavers party, but there was two, her one and my one. And obviously, there was more people at mine. And she came over and bought me a drink and put it on the table. And I just looked at her and left it there and walked off.
Yeah, I'm so petty. Nice. I would have done that too.
Yeah. But hey, talking of parties and bringing it back, we get a party at Sydney's to round off the episode.
Yes, I love that.
But what about her neighbours? Like, I'm sorry, you've got Chef Terry from. Wouldn't she have a bigger apartment where you could fit more people? How did they end up back at Sydney's?
I think because it was empty.
Maybe it was just really close by.
It's like a flat warming party as well, kind of. I was like, was there not any noise complaints? Like, because it's very, very late.
It's Chicago.
That's true. But of course, the key thing we get here is Sydney has a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Carmy, you have literally done to her what Chef David did to you.
Yeah.
And of course, it ends with the review coming in, and there's a ton of missed calls and texts from Cicero and the computer. And then what did it do? To be continued. You absolute mothers.
Oh, I was actually very upset by that.
Just those three words.
But here's the thing: is were they real reviews, or was it just him going?
I think it's him going back and forth. No, do you think? Oh,
well, no. I think the actual review did come in because. Yeah.
But what he's seeing is still him imagining it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of what. Yeah, if that was the actual review.
Because some of them are super positive, and some of them were like, really bad. I reckon it's going to be a mix. I reckon it's going to be the food's amazing, the atmosphere is chaotic. It's going to be that kind of thing. So it'll be good, but not good enough, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And again, moving on to music, there's Song in this laid by James for the party, which everyone of a certain age will remember from. Come on, Jose, what's the film? American Pie. The song from American Pie, the end of American. It's the start of American Pie, I think. or the end. I can't remember. It's either the start or the end of the original American Pie. It's the same song. You got more Weezer. They love some Weezer in the garage, or the garage, as they pronounce it, which is weird. You got Talking Heads, The Big Country.
Garage.
David Bowie, Can You Hear Me in there? Tangerine Dream, Diamond Diary. Otis Redding, Just One More Day. We Close Our Eyes by Susanna Hoffs. Big White Cloud by John Cale. And what the music budget on this episode must have been. Disarmed by the Smashing Pumpkins to finish. I mean, literally the fact I saw both these bands at a gig a couple of months ago, the Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer, play the same show. And they're both in the same episode of the show. What a song. Disarm. It's such a cracking song. And again, the lyric in that, I haven't thought about that till now. The refrain at the chorus in that song is, the killer in me is a killer in you. So you take that in terms of what Carmi's just done to Sydney. Oh, and relax.
Your knowledge of music is way more advanced than mine.
But when you see the way photography's done, Jose, in a film, you're immediately on it because you know that. Marie, like when it comes to fashion and fashion design and production design of film, you're immediately on that because that's your area. And I'm not really, I mean, I was a guitarist as well. I did play guitar for years as well. And like being mates with Ben and all that and that kind of side of it. But I just love a great song in a film, man. Like
I think you're just really good at observing the connection between the song and the moment.
I think it's editing as well.
I don't have that ability.
I think that should be the job I should be. I shouldn't be an editor. I should be an editor, but I should be a sound editor. Sound supervisor, picking the music that goes in films.
There we go. Is that all they do?
I think there's a bit more to it than I should really know because one of my old assistants, she was a music rights lawyer beforehand, and she was like, "You can't play that song." I was like, "We can't." Better tell the whole fleet because we've been doing it for since I started the job. And then we were not very popular because suddenly we couldn't use copyright music, even though we should never in the first place. So quickly now, moving on, we've gone through every episode. Jose, this is going to be a little quick section for you and me because we predicted, and I went back and listened to our episode 78, where we did what we thought our predictions for season 3 were going to be. And I thought, do we have a time jump? No, not really, because it pretty much carried on from the straight. So I was wrong there. I had this idea that Carmi might leave and just walk out. No, wrong again. I thought, is Carmi headed in a dark direction like his brother? No, not this season, at least. Will Carmi get some mental health help? Not really, although he does go to his group once or twice, I think. Maybe just once.
Yeah, I think
we did mention about shipping Sid with other characters, and we said, no, it's not that kind of show, which is what we still agree. Although we also did say there are sparks with Luca at the end. But again, if they did do that, I'd love it to just all happen off screen. And then not even work in the same restaurant. So literally just be, you see him pick her up and leave one, and that's it. That's the extent of it. If they did do something like that, I think that's how they do it. Do they make enough money to pay back Cicero? No, and it was definitely going to be a major plot point for the next series. We also mentioned, I don't know if you're aware, Marie, there was a British film called Boiling Point.
Yes, you did recommend it to me. I haven't seen it yet.
It is basically The British Bear, but it was a one-take film with Stephen Graham in it. And it's like one nightmare night at a restaurant. And it's so much like The Bear. And of course, this film came out during COVID, just after COVID, and it went straight to Netflix. And it was a brilliant, brilliant film because the director and writer of that film, Philip Barranti, used to be a chef. And honestly, it's an amazing film. There's also, since The Bear, and then of course, then The Bear came out within about 6 months of it. And you're like, holy shit, this is basically the same thing. Because The Bear does that one episode where it's a really stressful night, one take. But this whole film was 90 minutes, one take.
Impressive.
They only had enough budget to do 4 takes, and they got it on the second, and they got shut down because of COVID. So they only had shot half of it, and luckily the second take was the one, and it was good enough. But the point being, we was wondering, would we ever get a crossover from that show and The Bear? Would we ever get Stephen Graham's character? And sadly, no, we haven't had that yet. But the maker of the show, Philip Barantini, did say when The Bear came out and Boiling Point then got converted to a TV show on the BBC, and they'd done 6 episodes of it. And again, it was like The Bear UK, but again, very, very well done.
I was just going to say, there was a Bradley Cooper cameo, like a photo. So fictional chefs are on the table.
Well, and like you say, the guy who makes Boiling Point was like, he's totally open to it. Why couldn't one of the chefs come over to train in England? Or why couldn't someone of his characters end up in The Bear? And they're so stylistically similar and in tone and like the frantic pace. It would totally work. For some reason, we said about Keanu Reeves guest starring, and that didn't happen. I know how we got onto that because you had Bob Odenkirk in it. You had the Punisher versus Mr. Nobody in season 2. So everyone was just like, okay, well, if you need John Wick as well, that's where you get Keanu Reeves in. That's where we got it from. Okay, I knew there was something. I should put more on my notes sometimes. I said, I wonder if I did actually say, I wonder if we do go straight in after the last night of season 2, which we did. So I finally got one prediction right there. I predicted Kami would sort himself out in season 3. Nope, totally wrong. He got worse. Will Jimmy shut them down because they're not making enough money? It looks potentially like this could happen with the missed calls and the texts in the finale. One thing we come up with, Jose, Richie versus Kami. Richie storming off and doing his own restaurant, and maybe a staff poaching thing. Big no there. Completely off base there.
No.
Kami spirals into depression. No, but he did spiral into work, which is kind of the same thing where he said. Ben did leave us some notes. He said he wanted it to carry on from last episode. He was right. He wanted to find out what happened with Donna. We'll find out a bit more what happened with her, so he was right on that. His great concern was that everyone had a positive arc. Would there be something to bring them all down? And he was right. But it was Kami.
Mhm.
Kami is shit at people.
Mhm.
Marcus, was he going to be potentially distracted because of his mother's death? Well, no, not really, because sadly, Marcus didn't really have a lot to do this season. He was a bit underused.
Yeah.
He also said, does Richie leave and work at another restaurant? No, not in season 3, but maybe in season 4 with Jet, wherever Jess ends up. And Ben's one where he was wildly off the mark. What if Richie gets shot by one of the drug dealers he moved on?
I mean, this is a drama, but I don't
not
think
even
it gets
close.
that dark.
Yeah, that would be out of nowhere, wouldn't it? Jose, we have yours here.
I said a few months time jump. No, there wasn't. It kind of worked right into the beginning of that. They'll do really well, but then something else will happen. Not really, because they were doing well, but just not making enough money. It just seems weird that they'd struggle again financially. I was wrong. They do, because of Kami's menu madness. New cast, new actors coming into the kitchen. Not really. Sweeps becomes a slightly larger role, and more facts with a lot more guest stars. Yeah, could we see more of Sugar? Fuck yeah. Fack and Richie causing front of house issues? Actually, not at all.
Except for the broth incident.
The broth incident, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, the broth incident is like he does the broth and then he just brings it back, and I'm like, yeah, you missed one step. So
to be honest, there are so many like weird fancy restaurants that sometimes do that, where it's like just the aroma, that's the experience.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. And then does Claire come back? Not really. There was a few flashbacks, and then the scene with Fax at the hospital, but just not enough for her to be to the situation where Kami ended up calling her. And new external threads made to make everyone work together to be successful. Kind of, if you count the introduction of the computer with Cicero, and the impending review, and just everyone worrying about that. So
I've got a few. I mean, I love this season overall, right? It's kind of our overall thoughts on it, and there are a few negatives, but these are other people's negatives, and I can see what they are, and I appreciate what they are. But I still think this show's just as good as the previous seasons. I don't think there's been a drop in quality. Negatives to the season for me, and this is what other people have noted, is very little narrative development. You could argue that the whole season is just Kami not calling Claire and everyone spinning their wheels waiting for a review. Sydney may be thinking about leaving, but I think that's reductive.
It's also because it's a reflection of real life. I completely disagree with this as well, yeah.
I think it's because it's the cool new show that was underground and it was like a niche thing. And then as it's become more popular, I mean, all the cast have become really popular in between seasons 2 and 3. Ebon Bosch-Mackrack is going to be in the Fantastic Four. Kami is going to be in the Bruce Springsteen film. Even Claire from The Bear directed, I think she co-wrote and starred in Theatre Camp.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, we can't forget the biggest star out of the show. Ayoa DeBerry is everywhere.
Bottoms.
And she hosted Saturday Night Live as well, and she killed it on there. And it's so funny for people who don't know her as a comedic actress, because before The Bear, she is a comedian.
I mean, she's hilarious in Bottoms.
Yeah.
Although you cannot say for Jeremy Allen White that this was his breakout role. I mean, Shameless, he practically grew up on it. So he was already a big name, but I think this where he's like the star, because in Shameless, that was a pretty big ensemble cast.
I think Shameless wasn't as big in the UK because we were like, everyone was just like, well, it's not our Shameless. And it was that whole Office thing of where it went even longer than the UK one. And again, I think I know friend of the pod, Charlie Gallagher, international crime author extraordinaire, when we had him on the pod a few years back, he was just literally saying Shameless US is one of his all-time favorite shows.
Yeah, I avoided it for so
Oh, wow.
long because like my flatmate was Mancunian, so she like found the Shameless, like the American one, like a bit of an insult. But then like during COVID, when I like exhausted all of Netflix, I had to watch it. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, it's better than the UK. I'm sorry, I'm of that opinion as well.
Do you know, I always had that opinion about The Office.
Oh,
I
man.
love the American Office compared to the English one. The English one, it's just not on. It's just not long enough. It's just not long enough.
That's what she said. I mean, you gotta give me that.
I'm-
You gotta
no.
give me that.
I'm not Jose. Can leave you hanging like the start of the other episode. Marie,
There we go.
overall thoughts on the season? Do you think it lived up to the other seasons, or what were your pros and cons of the season overall?
I think it lived up. I think it was a great continuation. I think what this series does so well, it kind of reinvents itself every single season. I like that we saw the restaurant. I like that we got more food porn this time around. It's the whole reason I watched the show, just for the food porn. It's really sad watching this show and then with my frozen pizza just sitting on the sofa. I thought it was another strong entry. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Jose?
I agree. This is a show that's it's growing and it's trying things out, as seen in some of the episodes, like taking a full episode to do what a lot of other shows will do just for one scene. And I think what it is a lot of shows do this, and sometimes to not as successful as an attempt. I think notable shows are that I'd like to mention that start off great. Ted Lasso did the same thing by expanding on the characters, but it really didn't execute as well. I think in the
Yeah.
third season, it tried, and then it didn't work. And I think The Bear really makes it a lot better because it kind of, I don't know, I think the flashbacks is what really made it better by showing things and how everyone got.
And let's
to
be
where they
honest,
were.
not a lot of shows when they do flashbacks, you're like, oh, another flashback. A lot of shows, you're like, oh god,
Mhm.
not again. The Bear, you can't wait to see the flashbacks because they're always done so well,
Yeah.
and that's so rare in a good TV show.
And I think the flashbacks are done to show more character development of where people were instead of just showing them what they were doing.
Yeah, every flashback is there for a reason to inform when a character is now and how they got to that arc. And not enough shows do that. They just, yeah. So I think moving on to season 4, I think one of the big questions we have to think is, what do we think the review is going to say? Well, I think it's going to be mixed. I think it's going to be generally good, but not enough for them to keep doing what they are doing with Karma's insanity with the menu. They'll probably have a time limit to make the changes to save the restaurant, which I think might be the crux of the season again. And I think they will fail, but everyone will leave the Bear and have better jobs and opportunities in life because of working there under Carmy, maybe.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
And so next season, Carmy, what do we think? Well, I think, will he finally call Claire and apologise? Yes, he has to, but I think he takes so long, she's moved on by then. And I also think Carmy might find himself a better teacher than business owner if this is going to be the Bears' last season.
I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say the show will actually end on a good note. And Carmy will.
That isn't a good note, I think. It's like a bittersweet note.
I mean, I think what he wanted is for the Bear to be successful. And I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. That's what makes this show great, is the journey. And I think it'll be kind of like an ending where it may not be obvious that he's successful, but he's happy. I think that's what my goal for him to end up, because it just doesn't make sense for him to like not be happy at the end of the series.
Well, see, that's why I went with that one, because I think he's not a great business person. He's a great chef, and therefore he's not happy doing what he's doing at the minute. Perhaps everyone kind of makes him realise at the end of it, look what you've done to uplift all these people. That is your gift, Carmy.
Yeah, I think along the same lines. I think it might be a reflection of Chef Terry, where he does walk away, but I don't think the Bear closes. I think he leaves the Bear behind, and Sydney becomes comes the one in charge.
Ooh,
but he leaves and decides to I'm just gonna be like a home cook. In order for him to be happy, he needs to leave the stressful environment of the restaurant.
With Richie, I think we all want him to get together with Chef Jess. Like you said, he would probably take her to his ex-wife's wedding. He will definitely fall out with Carmy again because that's just what the show does. But I think this time he's going to be a bit more zen about it, or he might actually quit and go and work somewhere else and be successful. And then I think maybe he comes back towards the end and helps pull Carmy out of whatever self-destructive spiral he's in, which he couldn't do to save his best friend, Mikey.
I actually really like that take. That
Yeah.
last part is he helps Carmi get out of a funk.
Because he didn't realise that Richie was in that bad, and that but I think everyone could see Carmi struggling, and so Richie kind of, even though they've
Yeah.
like fall out, and they need to have a really bad fallout for him to turn up in Carmi's moment of need, like the last person you want to see. I mean, it's funny earlier in the season when you hear him make the phone call and apologise, and he says "I love you," and it's to Richie, not to Claire.
Yeah.
So you see how deep that relationship is.
Yeah.
What do we think for Richie?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think very similar to you. Because, like as I said, the show's so good at subverting expectations, so we might be completely off the money here. I think the good Richie arc will continue and he steps up. I'm not sure if they're going to have another falling out. I think they're going to find a middle ground, Richie and Carmi. I do think it's interesting, like Carmi going down the same spiral as his brother did. I don't think the show is going to go down that way, but it is intriguing. But I think we're just going to continue to see Richie step up and be a good dad, be like maybe even be a good partner, because I do ship that as well. Be the lead that the bear needs.
I think the most Bear thing they could do, like you say, with subverting expectations would be he doesn't have a falling out with Carmi. He just gets a better opportunity and walks away.
Mm-hmm.
And we would be expecting
I
that
can
big
see
thing. And that, again, could be something that Carmi just blindsides him and spirals him a bit more because he's shit at people. He's like a bit like a robot in some things. With Sydney, I think she does quit. I think she goes to work with Adam Shapiro at his new restaurant. I think she mugs off Marcus, and I think she gets together with Will Poulters. But the question is, do we see her in a different restaurant? Or are we actually... That's the only reason I think this might work, as I'm workshopping it literally as I think of it now, that we don't see generally in other restaurants that often. And I don't know whether it would dilute the show too much, because you'd have to have all these other characters around her in a new restaurant.
Yeah, I don't think she'll leave. Another great scene was all of them talking about their experiences with their chefs, and Sydney realizing that she never had that experience, that mentorship ship, and I think that was the big cause of the panic attack as well. But I don't know. I don't think Sydney is also extremely impulsive, and also shares self-destructive personality traits, and also has the habit of getting in her own way as well. So I don't see her making the healthy decision. I see her staying in a toxic workplace. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think she's going to be the head chef of the Bear. That's the best I've got.
What about you, Jose?
It's tough because you could see it going both ways. She could just leave and be happy, but then actually realize that she settled in by going to another restaurant. Because I think staying at the Bear will challenge her and will make her better. Kind of like, what happened to Carmi with that horrible chef played by Joel McHale. I think just for the sake of the fact that this show is called The Bear, I think she'll stay. And I think it'll just cause some conflict. But I do like the idea that she's ultimately going to be the head chef. And then Carmi plays a smaller role somehow. But I don't think Carmi's going to walk away. That's the weird thing.
Moving on to Marcus. I reckon Marcus gets fired.
No.
Because if you need to do some cuts, then I think that could... But I think losing Marcus... It will be a decision that Carmi has to make to keep doing what he wants to do. And I reckon that will then lose something I reckon Sugar might quit then because of it. Like she says, don't fuck with Marcus, I will kill you. And that could lead to some of the other staff quitting. And I think Marcus is awesome enough and that's settled that I think he'll get another job somewhere fairly quickly. Maybe with Luca, that would be funny.
Oh, yeah, I love that bromance. Or they do what they're currently doing with the beef, because that's the only successful operation currently. He opens his own donut shop and sells it through the Bear.
Yes.
Ooh.
Donut entrepreneur, Marcus.
Oh, wow.
The Bear Nut? No, that doesn't sound right. What would they call it?
I've noticed that you're going a certain way, Neil, and I think it's actually making me go the other way. I think everyone stays. Because they could have left by now with the upgrade of the restaurant and all the stress. And I do like the idea that he does eventually create his own donut, but I think Marcus stays with the Bear. I think something will happen. We want Marcus to crack that nut and just blow up with a dessert that blows everyone away. That has to happen. I want that to happen.
Perhaps he comes up with a dessert that literally saves the restaurant. Like people travel far and wide to go and have that.
as you said before, they're filling the seats, but they're just not making the money, and it's because of the changing of the menu. I think if anything with Marcus particularly, he'll find that dessert with the flour that he saw. He will attribute it to his mom. That's probably one of the few things I think might happen.
Tina, I think if the bear did close its doors, she would be the last one to leave. But I also could see Tina just going and opening her own smaller scale neighborhood place. I feel like she could have her own place at not like the same level, but I feel she's smart enough to maybe she's took that step up now, and so I think she's not going to go backwards. Now she's got those skills.
Yeah, I think she's going to follow Sydney. Tina is going to stay where Sydney is because they've got that relationship. So if Sydney leaves, Tina is going to leave as well. I think this season we've kind of seen that like Tina's loyalty has shifted from Carmi's to Sydney because like she was the one helping her out while Carmi was the one berating her. And I don't think Tina wants to strike on her out on her own. I think she's definitely good enough, but I think she likes being part of a team and an environment, a family, so to say.
And the safety of having a job.
Yes. Like striking on your own, that's no guarantee of a job.
But I agree that she will stay in a safe place. She'll do what she knows. Granted, she's definitely grown as a character. Grown just as a chef as well, but also with that backstory, us knowing more about her. I think that really helped us understand where she's coming from. I think she will follow Sydney and be in a good place with her because they've grown to respect each other so much. And I think that's a really good dynamic between the two of them.
What about Sugar? I can see her maybe quitting just purely because of having a baby now.
That one,
which is a shame because Abby Elliott was superb this season.
I think there's probably going to be like if she does leave, it's at the end, but I don't think so again because I think the show is based on conflict, and her leaving gets rid of that conflict, and it doesn't make sense for her to just leave after she's been through so much helping the business, going through the financial stress.
As a new mother, that is a whole different level of stress. And then you could even have a bit where an episode with her and her mum again, where not like a redux of that one, but she realizes that she's going to turn into her mum if she doesn't quit the bear, something like that.
I don't know because that what Jamie Lee Curtis plays is more than just stress from work. It's mental health issues, I think.
Okay, what about you, Marie?
Ooh, I don't know. I think she might focus on being a mom and being there for her child. The complete opposite of her, like her childhood, trying to provide a happy and secure home, and staying at the bear. I don't think would do that. But then I think the bear would completely collapse without her. I mean, she is the mom of the group as well, but she also oversees all the finances, something that Carmi does not have an overview of at all. So I don't know. I can see her also walking away and just trying to be like the happy like family person, like trying to create a environment, like a nice environment for her daughter. But I don't know. I think everyone's in too deep though at this point. I think everyone's in too deep, and now they have to have this thing succeed.
The facts will land on their feet wherever they are, purely because there's so many of them.
I mean, like Chicago is just like 50% fact at this point.
Yep. Chicago fact. No. Facago. Facago. There you go. Facago.
Hashtag FIKAGO.
There you go. You heard it here first. Probably not. Someone's already done that. I reckon we probably get another flashback with Joan Bernfeld at some point.
I think he's a staple. Every season you have to have one good flashback.
I don't think we're going to see Chef David again, Joel McHale. I think that storyline's pretty much resolved now with him and Carmi.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Jimmy, I think Uncle Jimmy will reluctantly have to pull the plug on the bear because it's losing too much money. But also, I think he'll try and help everyone else out as he can.
How would he help everyone with new jobs?
Well, help them find new job. Yeah, new job. Oh, I know so-and-so. Yeah, this person's a good person, all that kind of stuff. Claire, I think we'll see Claire again, but I think it'll be too late for Carmi. I think she'll have moved on. It'll be with that thing where I think she'll kind of come out with that thing as look, you need to sort yourself out. And then
yeah, definitely.
I think they spend too much time worrying about the will she won't they with Claire, and it's at this point the way that they talked about her all season, they're gonna get together. And I think if Carmi does step down, it's to be with her.
That could work, yeah. Or I just like the fact. I just think the more realistic thing is she's like, no, see you later. You're a dick. You were a dick locked in a fridge. I think we might.
Have you seen how he looks? Like it's difficult to walk away from that.
Hey,
bad boy with tattoos. I mean, any manic pixie girl's dream girl's weakness. Like,
I think we might see more of Luca and Will Poulter next season because Why wouldn't you put him in the show even more?
Yeah, he's too good. Like even just like he's. I mean, he was in episode 1, but he didn't have any lines. But just every time he's like on screen, and it's just for a short amount of time, but it's always brilliant.
Yeah.
And they did say that he was going to be there for a few months, and that was the last episode.
They did.
So
Yeah, they set
that
it up.
means-
That's definitely foreshadowing.
Y-
And of course, Jamie Lee Curtis has to return and have the big emotional scene with Carmy, because Carmy is basically, they haven't had that scene. We've only seen them interact in the Christmas episode in the flashback. We
Mhm.
haven't seen them in like the real time have that conversation. And like Carmy is basically a robot in places, and they just haven't had that scene. So I just know that's going to be like, there's going to be the episode where you finally have Donna and Carmy go at each other and kind of hopefully get some closure in there. So this brings us on to the very last question I have for you guys, and that is, how do you think the show is going to end if season 4 is potentially the last season? My take is, I think the restaurant will close, but Carmy will realise how good he is at inspiring people, and that everyone who worked for him is better off in their lives because of him, and he'll finally be happy because he's realised that, and maybe go off and become a teacher somewhere. I do like what Marie said earlier on, and then he hands the bear over to Sydney. I think that's the way it goes. Definitely.
Yeah, I think the exact same as you, except the bear doesn't close. Everyone else stays, but he walks away.
Okay. Jose.
So I just had like an epiphany of what could happen with Carmy specifically. No, I honestly think I think the whole goal is the bear to be successful. And that's what I think is the purpose of the show, is for him to realize his goal. But I honestly think Carmy maybe has a breakdown halfway through the season, and then by the end of the season he recovers enough to be like, okay, I'm actually good enough to do this, and he realizes that he can get the job done. And ultimately, nothing ever is really perfect, but I think ultimately the show will be him realizing he can make it happen, and he'll be happy enough to make things work with Claire and the restaurant at the same time. So yeah, so not perfect, but make it work, and realizing that you're going towards a balance.
Okay, well, that has been more bear talk than salmon season in Alaska. And that's all the time we have today.
Hey.
Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Needed Roads. I forgot the we. On Instagram at We Needed Roads, which I do not think is going to be updated anytime soon because David runs it. So I'd like to thank my guests today. Firstly, Marie, tell people where they can find you on the socials and when your next episode is coming out.
Oh, don't ask when the next episode coming out. That's oh boy.
Oh, boy.
I mean, we do hopefully have an anniversary special coming out on the 12th of September. It's just we haven't been able to record that due to
Life.
life. Yes. Exactly. Let's just leave it at that, due to life. But if you want to listen to any of our previous episodes, you can find us at 2 Girls, 1 Reusable Cup. We are on all major streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music. Is it Apple Music? The Apple one. Apple Podcast.
I'm just going to call it Apple.
You can also follow us on social media. We are on Twitter. I'm going to always still call it Twitter. Twitter, Instagram.
Always.
At 2G1 Reusable Cup. And if you want to follow me personally, I go by Life on Mars, and that I'm everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
Excellent. Jose,
Awesome.
you don't actually do anything for the podcast on socials, but what you do is promote your world-class photography skills. So where can people find you for work, basically?
Yes, if you want to go to my website, it is jlopezphotos.com. That's where you see my wedding
Now, Jose,
portfolio.
These aren't photos you have taken of Jennifer Lopez, right?
Unfortunately not. I have not reached that pinnacle yet, but at one point I should probably just do J. Lopez photos and ask to photograph one of Jennifer Lopez's weddings. She has them every couple years anyways, right?
Nice.
Burn!
Ben Affleck is getting burned a lot recently. That
I feel
the
bad.
Wolverine joke.
And Instagram is probably the only other place to really kind of see where I post things. That's where I actually do more lifestyle and fun portraits. It's at Jose Lopez Photos. You can reach me through links on both. And yeah, take a look. I love to travel. If anyone wants to hire me anywhere outside of the state of Florida, I don't mind leaving.
What about Portugal?
Oh, I'd love to go to Portugal. I just need to update my passport. I let it expire.
As we all did during the vid. So remember, if you like what you hear, you can give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on pretty much all the podcast platforms. Right, I'm off to get a Subway because frankly there's been too much sandwich talk here. Hashtag sponsor us Subway. See you next time, folks.
We needed roads.